through the class later, the rest of the session. So we have looked at task G, which was a very interesting one. So how did you find G? Whether you wrote or you didn't write the paper, how did you find G? Was it a nice one to have? How did you find it? Any thoughts before we kick off?
Hi, Rendani.
Evening.
Evening, everyone. Yeah, I'll give my feedback, but I didn't write, so it's just things that I was wondering for those who wrote. So firstly, it's they give a calculation and you are commenting on the principles. And then my first thought and question was, is there any need to do some sense check on some of the numbers? So for example, for you to get the present value discounting with a certain discounting factor, you don't have to even look at the reasonability just using your naked eye, or do you at any point need to even like hold a calculator and say, if I discount this amount, does it really come to this or close to that, when they say they are asking the principle?
All right. So I'll break down your question into two, and it's a very interesting one. So the first part of it is to say, how do you actually undertake a review of a provided work, especially one that includes calculation? So if you're evaluating like this NPV, evaluating a discounted free cash flow, evaluating an earnings-based value calculation, evaluating something that has been done with calculation. So that one, I'll put it as a general question. But then the second one, when what you're saying is, do I need to then confirm the accuracy of the numbers? In other words, where they are supposed to add things, should I check whether they actually added them and that the answer coming out, if it's 2 plus 2, it's actually 4. So that one, you need to always read carefully. And the reason for that, you will remember that even in ITC, there will be questions that say, assume the mathematical computations are accurate, meaning that wherever they needed to sit with the calculator and run an NPV, and if they say the NPV is 1 million, you need to believe that that calculation was done correctly. But last year, not last year, but 2020, there was actually a task where the CFO then said that my Excel skills are not also up to scratch. So in that instance, that is where they wanted candidates to do some checking, to say that if two numbers are supposed to be added together and we are supposed to therefore get a higher answer if they're all positive, then there was actually a lower answer. It could have been that the formula used in Excel was not accurate. And that was an expectation from candidates to pick that up. But generally speaking, we hope that they will clarify that the workings have been done correctly. If they don't clarify that, then it becomes a question of, should you then do the work to do that? And in some cases, it might, but here it's a 20-year period, and you might need to think twice about it. Make sense?
Yeah, thank you, Rendan. It makes sense.
All right, but the first part I'm gonna respond to as a general one. when we kick off. Okay, I see a hand. Atara.
Good evening, Rendani.
Evening.
Yeah, no, at this point, I didn't know what was happening. I was lost completely. I think I don't even know how I got an LC because wow, it was a lot. So yeah, I didn't see the light here at all.
Sure. All right. I see someone said that they've passed it. Well done. Well done. So I hope, Atara, by the time we are done, you are clear of the expectations from you. All right. Gracious, I see your hand. Please go for it. Gracious.
Hello, can you hear me?
Now I can.
Yes, good evening, Ren, and everyone.
Evening.
Yes. So for me, this task, I did it, one of those that I did last, and to my surprise, I got it right. So like what I learned from actually this task is that sticking to time is important, because there were tasks that I did for, like, for instance, more than an hour, and I came back with an LC. And this task, I did it in like 30 minutes and I got it right. So I think that's one thing that I've just learned, that one needs to stick to time allocation, because really it seems like time, in as much as we have to be cautious of time, but at the same time, time is not an issue, but rather maybe planning and having the knowledge.
100%. I agree. I agree with that view. So you are saying you exercise good planning for this task then?
I think so. I think so. I think so.
All right. Now that sounds good. Okay, I don't have any questions. Let's go for it. So document G. So we see that it's coming from Denise, and Denise is the same party that introduced this task to us when we did what? When we were sitting in the PRI. So she's back now. She said that, hi there, I received Green Sky's proposal in an Excel spreadsheet earlier, which I have attached for your review. Please respond. We see a verb and we know that probably this is where the task is going to come. By checking whether their approach is appropriate for our purpose. Their approach is appropriate for our purpose, and whether there's anything that is omitted from and or incorrect in their workings. So here they've given us what? A very interesting task. We need to check their approach. We need to check whether there are any omissions. We need to check whether there are any errors. So that is clear. And noting some of the key issues we will need to investigate or negotiate prior to entering into the PPA. So now there is a strategy or decision-making piece. Focus your mind on the key commercial terms and operational issues. So they are what? They are very clear. That focus on the commercial terms and operational issues. So let's say they didn't say this. What other things can one focus on? What other things can one focus on? Let's say they didn't clarify this. What else could you then have focused on? What else is there? What else is there? Is that a new end? Oh. So what else is there, guys? Was it necessary for the APC examiners to include that? Or it was duh, there's nothing else to focus on? Did you specifically restrict your response to those? And when you read commercial terms and operational issues, what do you read? Who can share their thoughts with us? Guys, you're too quiet. Yes, yes. Why are you so quiet tonight? Yes. Please go for it.
Yeah. I would consider issues to do with environmental impact that we may at a later stage would like to probably even report on with this integrated reporting framework. I can consider the benefits of actually shifting to solar from an environmental perspective.
Thank you. And what you are reading is that you are reading that don't do it, right?
Do it rather.
Oh, wait. Oh, which question are you answering? Because maybe I've got two questions. Because first I asked what else is there to consider, and I then asked what are the kind of issues in the commercial terms and operational issues. So when you are responding now, which one are you responding to me to?
Or is the commercial issues?
So you consider the environmental considerations to be commercial issues?
Yeah, although it's not really like to do with cash and rand and cents, but in the bigger scheme, I find it to be a commercial issue. I don't know if it's outside.
Will you not consider this to be a separate issue in itself?
It is, but now that they didn't give me other.
But and maybe before, to make sure we are together, this is not my laptop now. I hope this, there we go. Yes, information on the day. Yes, this is what we covered. So, if you remember our earlier discussion on the pre-release, you will remember what we picked up, right? Because when Denise sent us the email the first time, she said, don't stress about researching the solar PV industry in too much detail, since we have an expert in the sector advising us on the technology and our system requirements. These PPAs are perfectly legal, but the regulations are complex and vary from province to province and municipality to municipality. Fortunately, our expert is here to advise us regarding all the legalities, so don't waste your time researching this. However, I will need your help indeed in reviewing Green Sky's proposal and assistance in closing the deal. So now bringing the two together, because remember the PRI is still part of the assessment. So bringing the two together, what is it that then when Denise said, focus your mind on the commercial terms and operational issues she was therefore implying that you should not think about?
It's the legal.
So that means the legal aspect, you can see that that is what she is reminding you on the day that, hold on, I've spoken to you about this. So don't then forget about that. Focus your mind on the commercial terms and operational issues. Anything else that you think she is probably thinking about based on connecting the two? Is there anything that you're saying that therefore I need to be mindful that this could be very good points that I could have found during the research period, but I should be mindful that what Dennis had said, I should not worry about this? So the environmental issues here, I'm thinking that this is outside the commercial terms, and it will then be an issue of, say, whether there will be enough solar energy to power this, because she had already told us that we should not worry too much about what the technological aspects. Do you remember that she specifically addressed that?
Yeah, the technical stuff.
Yes. So you might have now come and you've researched, you now know that there is Renergies, there is 1, 2, 3 that actually do these things. They've got different technology, they've got different equipment, there's different ways to harness the power. But she is saying that no, don't worry about that. Focus rather on the commercial terms and operational issues. So do you see that the scoping, if this statement then looked a little unusual, it was because she was just connecting the PRI with the IOD? Because sometimes the question always comes to say, when we get there, do we just throw away the PRI? But now here, this is a perfect example that you cannot just throw away the PRI. The PRI remains to be a critical part of the assessment. So if you have found yourself maybe saying that, on that day, Saika, I told them about the different technology that they could use, and that if they maximize the solar, that in mid-rand, I heard that the solar energy is not so powerful, that's why we don't see so many solar panels in mid-rand. So all those things could have been good, but because Denise had said, focus your mind on the key commercial terms and operational issues that could have been outside the scope of what Denise was looking for. The experts will provide her with that. It's not like it's irrelevant, but she is trusting that the legal experts, environmental experts will provide her with such. Then she said further, don't recalculate their numbers at this stage. And then the question was, what should I be doing? So if you are telling me don't recalculate the numbers, what should I do? So to that point, Ngoku, that you were questioning earlier on, to say, did I need to check the NPV, whether it's right based on this rate given? No, she said don't do it. Do you understand? So that's now it's again outside the scope. If really that NPV is wrong and you identify it, but you then have invested time in something that we asked you not to do, just a review from a principal perspective. And when we talk about a review, it's always quite interesting to say that this is then how I will want you to think about it, especially for a technical issue like this. So number one, it is to ask whether there are errors in principle, right? And whether there are omissions. So errors in principle essentially means that this should have been there. This should, this is correctly, so yeah, let me correct. This is correctly in there, but the figure used does not comply or align with the underlying principles. So when you see revenue, I'm saying that yes, revenue should be there, but I saw that your revenue included non-operational and operational revenue, so that's why I'm rejecting it. So the item should have been there, but it does not comply or align with certain principles. Then omissions. These items should have been there. So maybe you can just silence, what do you call it? Yes, mute, you mute. I think there's a mic open. Okay, sounds good. So this item should have been there, but they are not. What? They are not included. So they have been incorrectly omitted. And number three, it is whether the inputs are what are reasonable. So this is the reasonability of the inputs. So reasonability of the inputs. So here you are saying that the amounts have been correctly included from a technical perspective. However, given the context, they are not believable. Do you see this? So when you are undertaking a review, keep this approach in mind, and it will help you to what? To make sure you generally or most of the time do very well in tasks requiring a review. And the second one, you'll hear when you get to Fade next week that he refers to this as a completeness task. So just to make sure that if I was to do this, I will have included this and that and this. Did they do that? Yes, yes, no, no. Then I raise the findings for the omissions. So that is to the question that came earlier. Very interestingly, Green Sky estimated the cost of purchasing electricity from city power could be based on the expected consumption figures per the solar panel. And multiplying that by the what? By the city power's expected tariff. So let's just read what they're saying, because we need to be on top of this. Green Sky estimated that the cost of purchasing electricity from city power could be based on the expected consumption figures per the solar panel or solar system, and multiplying this by the city power's expected tariff. And because we are asked about their approach, is it appropriate for our purpose? Did you find that this was questionable? Did you find that this was questionable? Their tariff increases have been very high recently, mainly because Eskom keeps increasing the prices. So this is a task that stands the test of time. Like, I mean, we've just been hit with another Eskom price increase. We've just been hit with this. And operationally speaking, I know some of you will have enjoyed load shedding this week. Not enjoyed, but exposed to load shedding this week. I mean, now you've got a good point to raise, right? From an operational perspective, don't you think that is point number one? Did you raise it from an operational perspective? That operationally speaking, moving to solar energy might help us to no longer be subjected to Eskom's erratic load shedding schedule, right? I'm thinking that this was your first point, right? Are you good, guys? You are too quiet. And I'm not sure today if you are hearing me. The last thing is to now wake up or to not, after 5 minutes, to say you've not been hearing me. Can you hear me?
It's Monday.
Is this the reason why you are so calm?
Yes, and I mean, this thing is something else.
Okay, why though? What does it mean? It's manic, yes.
I think for me, like it's just not coming together. I will prepare things during pre-release, but on the day I don't know what to do, and I like this task literally I don't know what to do.
But do you understand it? Maybe let's clarify that part.
No, I don't. I know I didn't understand it.
Okay, fair enough.
So I think I'm struggling to understand, like to put the pre-release together with the technical, the theory. I don't know which one to use for what, because I'll be expecting some valuation. The next thing it's some funny numbers, and you must just do. I don't see the light here.
Okay. No, thank you for that input. We'll touch on it. Dimakato, please go for it.
Good evening, everyone. For me, I think with that statement,
which one?
The one that you highlighted, where you were saying, do we agree with the statement or not? I think they should have taken into consideration the fact that maybe the utilization now, it might increase with the fact that we are anticipating to buy the kilowatts per, what is it called? The kilowatts per hour at a very lower rate when we are using the solar panel as compared to when we are buying directly from City Power, because from City Power it will be expensive. So now we'll be like trying to save more or to use less electricity. But when we are using the one that is generated from the solar power, probably the controls might not be working as or they might not be emphasizing to say let's save electricity and whatnot and what. That's what I was thinking when I was reading the statement, to say we cannot be using what is expected from the consumption from the solar power system, but multiplying with the rates from the City Power, because it wouldn't make sense. More electricity might be used from the solar system compared to the City Power. Thank you.
No, thank you for that. But it sounds like we might be interpreting this differently. And maybe let me just make sure how you will have probably expected it to be worded. So the fact that they say that the expected consumption figures per the solar panel, did you not read it as incorporating that view that you're just talking about? And you are arguing that since now the electricity is cheaper, there could have been some of the things that we normally had wanted to do. Let's say now you are saying that the reason I don't have an aircon is because I know that aircons consume so much electricity. And if I have an aircon, it's just adding a very big bill to my monthly payments. But now you are arguing that if they have solar, then they will likely buy those aircons. But then when you read this statement, will this not be included in the expected consumption figures?
Hi, Rendani.
Hi.
Yeah, Rendani, sorry to take you back a little bit, but I think the sentiments that were shared by Atara, they may be probably universal and maybe cover a number of people, where people may be asking, okay, where were we from the pre-release and what happened on the day and what is the requirement? So I don't know if it may take a lot of your time for you to kind of like unpack the business model. So we're talking of a school, and obviously they need electricity for their day-to-day running at the school. And here there is an external party who is sort of an expert. This Green Sky is a company that deals with solar systems, and they are coming in offering. They actually approached the school, I think, if I'm not mistaken. And they are offering to say, look, guys, we can come to PPA, which is excuse me, I lost that abbreviation, but it's an agreement, power, yeah, but it's for the power generation agreement, right? Power purchase agreement. So what is a power purchase agreement? What kind of an arrangement is this? And is us coming in to put down about 3-point-something million that was mentioned there, and as an investment, and then after that investment, we then still buy power from them. So it sounds like they are all outflows in this kind of a model.
Oh no, I think I think yeah, there's a bit of difference in understanding. I'll clarify that.
Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, Rendani.
Hi. Good evening. Is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sorry, Rendani. I just want to get clarity on what you said previously on the load shedding. And if I look at the first bullet point, they said we must check whether their approach is appropriate, and they've given us their workings. But now when I consider the operational implication on the load shedding, we can't we can't quantify that.
Yeah,
So,
tofana kuti andinotoramba ndakatsonana naye
how does it get in here when we can't quantify that?
Sorry, Bitwell, I think someone's mic is open. Okay. Yeah, no, I think they've yeah. Okay, no, so it's sorted. Now let's go. Yeah.
So I'm saying that the operational implication on the load shedding, we can't quantify that. And when we are reviewing, we said we need to check on the errors, omission, and the reasonability of the inputs. How can we quantify things like load shedding implication?
Oh, okay. And that's a fair question. So in this case, right, there are two parts to the task. So they are saying that this Green Sky has sent us what is now an attachment to this email, right? And the first part is saying check whether their approach, check whether their approach is appropriate. So the first part is talking to the attachment. Then the next one say, noting some of the key issues we will need to investigate or negotiate prior to entering into this agreement. And when you are now going to negotiate or investigate further, focus your mind on the key commercial terms and the operational issue. Now, I will have then said that, guys, I am currently sitting with City Power. City Power is on Eskom grid. Operationally speaking, I am worried about load shedding. That when I'm offering some of my online classes, when I'm delivering an assessment, load shedding does impact. So if I move to your system, operationally speaking, will there be an improvement? Should I expect a better state compared to load shedding, or will I be worse off? That is something that I'll want to investigate in terms of the what is it? What's the word? Let's call it suitability. The suitability of stability is not suitability. The stability of this solar system. Will it be able to give me power consistently? Or will it also be subject to, sometimes it might not be power, there might not be power, and so on and so on. So I will therefore need to consider that operational issue. That can these systems be relied on such that if I move, then operationally speaking, I know that load shedding will be an issue of the past.
Okay.
Yes, so it will not necessarily come through the numbers, but it will be some of the key issues that I'll want to just clarify or investigate prior to entering into this. Because if then someone says, oh no, this is worse, if you move into this solar panel, there are 365 days, come winter, you're gonna struggle. Then I'm worried about the stability on my operations if I'm to move. Do you understand?
Yes, I do.
Yes, so that's where I was coming from with that point. Okay, so Green Sky reckons that A could have a net present value of about 5 million if it enters into the PPA and does not purchase electricity from City Power. That looks very appealing. Thanks so much in advance. Once I receive your feedback, we can start drafting a proposal for the board. So you are not drafting the proposal now, we'll just do it later. So now tell me, in your approach, you have not looked at the what Green Sky has done. So if you are to consider what Green Sky should do, then how will it look like? Because that's what I challenged myself with, that before I open the next page, I need to actually do a calculation or a framework in my mind and say, this is how it's going to work. So if I find that they didn't do it, for me, it's an error of omission. If I find that they did it, but in not the way I expected, it could be an error in principle. And if I find that some of the assumptions used don't make sense, it could be a reasonability of the inputs. Already I've got 3 points. 3. So do you see that when I've got a framework, then it makes it easier? But just to make sure we are all on the same page. So this is what this is saying. So we've got this mid-range school that is being considered. So imagine this with me. Now you are saying you are fed up with load shedding. You stay either in your flat, you stay in your townhouse, you stay in your house, you stay wherever. Now you then come together, say as a complex, and say, guys, we are tired of Eskom. Let's now implement a solar system for the complex. So what will it mean? It will mean that for instance, the roof of the houses or the homes at your complex, they will then be installed with those solar panels. So imagine those solar panels are now the standard roofing in your complex. And what it therefore means, it means that what the proposal is that this thing will normally cost the complex 5 million. And in that 5 million, you will then be told that you as tenants, your levy will now increase and there will be a special levy for the next 24 months of 3,000 per month. And you're saying, oh, I don't have 3,000 per month. But now you get this partner that say, no, no, don't worry at all. Do not worry. I will fund and supply the solar panels to the complex for free. So now this sounds interesting. So how will this work? So I will either manufacture, import, or buy locally the solar panels with my own money. And I will come and paste or install all those solar panels on top of the roof. So that is the proposal. And now you're saying, what's the catch? Once these solar panels are up, I will disconnect you from Eskom or City of Joburg, City of Cape Town, or wherever you are. I will then disconnect you from them, meaning that you will no longer on a monthly basis get a bill from your municipality. Oh, okay. What will then happen? I will bill you for the usage, right? Or is it usage? I wonder. I will bill you for the usage. In other words, after I've installed this, I can also connect maybe to your existing meter, or I'll give you a meter which will track how much power you are using. And then at the end of the month, I will then bill you. But my bill is not as hectic as Eskom. So if Eskom will normally charge you R1 per unit, I will charge you like 60 cents per unit. Is that a good deal to you? And don't worry, I will also be, what do they call it, your maintenance partner. So I will make sure throughout the next 20 years that these things are in fully functioning order, and I will maintain them. You don't need to worry about that. So if for whatever reason the solar panel busts, no, so that's not it. So if then anything is supposed to be maintained on the solar panel, I will handle that. So that is what we are told. Are we in alignment about the understanding of the project? Does it sound too good to be true? And now when we run the numbers for the complex, we are saying that the complex, including you as tenants, altogether you will generate, in terms of the savings from not paying Eskom and paying this solar panel installer, maintainer, and the provider, you will save a total of about 5 million over the next couple of years. Does this sound too good to be true?
It sounds reasonable.
But are we now aligned of what the proposal is supposed to do?
Yeah, I think we have unpacked it very well, Redan. I don't know unless if others have questions, but that's a good,
okay,
good unpacking.
Hi, Redani. I have a question.
Please.
So what is the purpose of the third last paragraph, the one that starts with very interesting? Was the purpose of that for us to compare with what we know from the pre-release and the attachment?
So now this, do you mean this entire paragraph?
Yes, because I was a bit confused when I read that paragraph. Like I didn't know what I was supposed to do with it. So they're telling me the estimated cost, how they come about calculating what it's based on, and that it increases. So I didn't know how that will play part in my review or evaluation.
All right, now let me clarify that for you. So now let's go back to that example that I've just put before you, right? So now in terms of comparing whether this is a good deal, how will you do it? Whether this offer that they are presenting to you, it's a good deal or not. How will you do it? So what they are saying is that for you to know whether this is a good deal, right? I will then say that I expect you to use electricity, let's keep it simple, of 100 per month over the next 5 years, 100 per month, 100 per month. Then what you will normally pay will be the 100 units used multiplied by what City Power is charging you. Do you agree?
Yes, I do.
So you will then say that is my cost. So for this to be a good deal, do you agree that Green Sky should provide a solution that is less than that on a monthly basis?
I agree. So I think I get it. So it was for
Okay.
basically the comparison.
Yes, so they are telling you how you do the comparison. So, but then the question that I am asking is that, do you agree that is the right way to think about it?
Yes, I mean, for you to get to a conclusion about an
Yes.
evaluation, you have to have two options that you need to decide from, and you're evaluating the both options. So I agree with that line of thought.
Yes. So that means that's what you're expecting to see in the calculations, right? If they didn't do that, that means you're going to tell them that there's a problem. Agreed,
Yes.
right? Yeah. So that is what your starting point should be. That you need to have a way to say, if this proposal was put before me, how will I assess it? So now, are we all aligned? Let me just see the comments. Okay. All right, so comments. Yeah, nothing. Great. So now let's see what then this calculation looks like.
I think there's a new hand.
Oh, sorry. Please go for it. I didn't see it, but happy for you to go. Yeah.
Hi, Rendani. I have a question. I think I understand the explanation that you just made, but I think going back to the pre-release information, the part where they said we would still need to purchase electricity from City Power, but would like to do that at a bare minimum. I think I'm a bit confused with that. Is this sentence saying that in addition to us entering into this PPA agreement, we would still need to buy some of our electricity from City Power?
Yes, so reading that statement without qualifying it, it means exactly that, exactly what you said. So we are understanding it in the same way. So
Okay,
essentially, if one is to make an example, I could say that my current usage is 1,000 per month of these kilowatt hours, right? But then the solar panel might then be only going to provide me with 800. So yes, the solar panel will give me 800, but my requirement is 1,000. So that means I will accept the 800, but I'll still need to buy the 200 from City Power or whatever municipality.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Great. Then now there is some interesting, so then they say that the proposal, so the estimated annual production is 489,500, right? Then there's power output degradation. So now this solar output degradation, this is how it works. So these solar panels, what happens to them is that each and every year they wear out. But when they wear out, it means that this is quite interesting, and this is how this works in practice. So they've got what they call a degradation. So if, for example, in year one, I've given you, say, 10,000 kilowatt hours, and my degradation is 10%, it means that next year, I will not be able to give you 10,000, but I'll give you 10,000 less 10%, meaning that I'll give you 9,000. Then in the year after, I will only give you 8.1, meaning that 10% from what we have, it's also going to degrade. So do you see that there will be a degradation each and every year? So the annual production of 489 of power or kilowatt hours that we will receive in year one, we will expect it to go down at the end of each and every year by a ratio of 0.5%. Does that make sense?
Hi, Rendani.
Yes.
I think the way I understood this degradation, degradation? I think it's, for me, it's something similar to depreciation, but in residual value method. Is it residual?
Yes,
Ooh, yeah.
but what makes it interesting is that it reduces the output. Do you understand? So yes, you can look at it as a depreciation, but the key thing here is that it reduces the power that comes out.
Yes.
So it means that in Green Sky's proposal, you need to see the power that they are promising you going down each and every year. Do you agree?
Yes. Yes.
And do
I
you see
agree.
mistake number one that they've made? Green Sky. When you look at the power they are promising you, what is happening to it?
It's constant.
So that is what? Is that not an error in principle? So that is review comment number one. Do you see that? Start dishing it now. You are ready. Are we all clear? Guys, we should just have a separate session of how to love Meg, right? I want you to love this. Are you loving this?
Maybe if we can have that session, it will also improve our performance in the APC on the 30th.
What is there? Why is there no love for Meg? Hey?
It's complicated.
And
It
Adara, I
requires
think
a
it's
certain
from
skill.
undergrad. Sorry to Makasa. I think it's undergrad CTA killed the love for Menek.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you get here, like the mind just says no.
Yeah, it refuses. Yeah.
So feedback number one is just to tell the examiner that you told me that there is a power degradation, output degradation of 0.5, but I'm not seeing that because the power output is constant. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
Menek is all about reading properly and comprehending. Like every sentence is important. and somehow linked somewhere. It's a puzzle. You are sounding philosophical about it, but interesting. It's a puzzle. All right. Then the system cost 3.8. We don't see the 3.8 on the analysis. Do we agree with that view? Do we agree with that view?
Yes.
Agree, because remember, Green Sky said, you guys will not pay anything, I'll pay. So when we analyze, we cannot include a cost we are not going to incur because it's not a cash outflow. Then they say the PPA initial charge is 110 and it will increase by 5% per annum. And then the estimated power city power tariff, it's 145. And the forecast is that in year 1, it will increase by 15%, in year 2 by 10%, in year 3 by 7.5%, and in year 4 onwards by 6%. Did you have any problem with that? Did you have any problem with that? Or were you conflicted as me? Because they say their tariff increases have been very high recently because Eskom keeps on increasing the prices. So when you saw this, did you consider this to be reasonable?
Hi, Rendani.
Hi.
I have a question. Someone raised a point in saying, was the need for us to do a recalculation? Like, for instance, I've been given the increases per year, and then I want to check if that, for me to assess whether the inputs are reasonable, that means I have to sort of do a recalculation and check if year 1 it increased by 15%, year 2 by 10%. Doesn't that then contradict what was said in the information on the day, or I'm missing something?
No. So we are not going to do that. So we are not going to do that because they were specific that we shouldn't do that. So now it's a matter of questioning whether these numbers as given, are they reasonable or not? So if you needed to do a calculation, like if you needed to do a ratio analysis and say 1.67, 1.45, compared to 1.45 and find that there's an increase, and there's an increase like doing growth rates, that is not a recalculation that we are talking about. Remember, a recalculation is to determine, a recalculation involves determining, recalculating an NPV, but doing a financial analysis to determine whether the growth rate is reasonable or not, that is not a recalculation.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, so everybody clear on that. So if you find yourself doing a ratio analysis, that will be expected of you to just say, let's say they didn't give you this 15%, right? And you're saying that, let me just see that it's 167 divided by 145, and you find that it's 15%, that will not be a recalculation. So if you then say the percentage growth, 167 divided by 145 minus 1 equals to 15%. So that will not be a recalculation as contemplated above. Here you are just assessing the growth. And this will be useful if this was not given. But because it's given and I don't have a reason to doubt it, I will not bother to recalculate. But now talk to me about reasonability. Tell me your views.
Hi, Rendani.
Mm.
I just want to ask why do we not have a problem with these percentages? The increase, the tariff increases.
But maybe let's start here. Did someone show some probably higher level thinking or application? Do you know what is City Power's current estimated rate? Did the 145 sounded good? Was it believable?
No.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
Mm.
Based on the research that I've done, the City Power is having a different blocks where it says if you are buying 0 to 500 kilowatts in a month, they are going to charge you a certain, which is, it was 255 cents, which is 255 cents. So if you buy on block 2, which is from 501 to 1000, the amount keeps on going. So how I've done my research was that if they said our expected annual usage will be 489,500 for year 1, then I said what will be the monthly usage, which I found to be 40,791. Then I needed to go back to their tariff block to allocate the number of units. To say for block 1, I allocate 500, block 2, another 500, for block 3, 1,000 and 1,000. Then the difference, which was 37,000, I allocated it to block 5 because that's where they were saying if you are buying more than 3,000 units. So that's how I did my research. At the end, I found it to be 118,000 per month for year 1. That's how I've done my research.
Okay. I would have thought that yes, someone went that far to question the reasonability of the 145 against research done, would have shown a bit more. So it will be interesting to see. Guys, just make sure your mic is off.
I was very tired last night.
Guys. Okay, thank you. Then someone is saying that the annual tariff increase is not reasonable as based on prior years. Eskom has been increasing their tariff above inflation. So, but this is above inflation. As part of estimating, what are you suggesting then? And then someone says interim agreement was 6% per PRI, now 15. No. So the interim agreement, the rate that let's see. Let's just make sure we are comparing like and like. So they said that Green Sky will not escalate by more than City Power's tariff of 5% per annum. So that is the cap. It is not the agreed or the proposed amount. It is just the cap. Does that make sense? So now it is increasing or is said to be increasing by 5%. That is good. It is below the cap of 6%. Does that make sense?
Hi, Rendani.
Hi.
Sorry to just take it back. I'm just struggling to comprehend what you just said. Can you please just repeat?
So what Green Sky promised us is that, unlike Eskom, the petrol prices, I don't know what is the maximum price that I will pay. Do you understand? There is no cap to the growth of this electricity cost. But the proposal from Green Sky, it's saying that if we're going to increase our rates, they are not going to increase by more than the lower of 6% or whatever City Power's rate is going to increase by. So in other words, if then Green Sky comes and say that your rate is next year going to grow by 8%, you will then say, no, hold on. You told me that my electricity rate or my rate will never grow by more than 6%, or the City Power's growth rate, whichever it's lower.
Oh, okay. No, I think I'm covered. Thank you so much.
Yes, so it's a cap of what it could increase by.
All right. No, I'm covered. Thank you.
Thank you. Then Helena is sharing a very interesting point to say forecasted tariff is exaggerated to make the savings appear more. And that's an interesting point, because what you need to go in with is that, what do you call this? It is that this company will then want you to enter into the agreement. And for you to enter into the agreement, you need to see the savings. So if they inflate the expected cost of what you will be paying to Eskom, and they give you what you will pay them, then the savings are very big. And therefore, you are more likely to take the proposal than not. So that is where probably you need to come from, to say that the increases are what appear excessive. Because, I mean, these are just estimates. They appear excessive based on what you can. They appear excessive based on either history, if you have done good research and if it validates it, or you can just say they appear excessive and you are concerned. And I am concerned because it's you. You are now, who are you in this case? The financial manager. I'm concerned that Green Sky could inflate this to make their proposal appear financially attractive. Do you understand?
Brendan?
Yes.
I appreciate that point, and it's obviously a reflection of professional skepticism. However, I just want to also highlight that from what Eskom has been doing, they actually had that proposal of 15% for 2021. I think that was like back earlier than actually 2020.
I was really conflicted as well when I got this. I was like, but this is not unheard of when you think about Eskom.
Yes, but I think the point still remains valid. I mean, for professional skepticism.
100% well said. Well said. Well said. Well said. Because even now, I mean, they've just increased. Didn't they get 9.6? So it's not too far from the year 2 rate of 10%.
Yeah, they actually wanted 20.5%. They wanted to vary everyone.
Yeah. So it's not unheard. So I was like, a student needed to be bold to raise this. But to simply just throw it out to say it is not believable, I think that would be too light. I will not easily give a credit, because practically speaking, we have seen far worse.
The good thing is that, yeah, the good thing is the way the point has been articulated there to say the incentive for showing a higher increase from ESCOM is to incentivize or show more attractive savings. So I think that really makes the point even stick better, because if there wasn't that incentive, then they would have still used 10% as a reasonable estimate. Yeah.
And thank you. So now, looking at this, let's dive deep into it. So we've got this. So they've got year 1 through to year 20. So it seems that Green Sky, remember Green Sky had given us some proposals, right? They said that it could be 15, 20, or 25. So now they've told us that it could be what? They're actually presenting a 20-year proposal. Then they've got the usage. Then they've got the rate that we'll be paying them, starting at 110, growing at 5%, 5% for the next 20 years. Then they showed that this is what you will be paying. So that's a minus. And the savings, it seems that they did what? So 709, 775 divided by 1.45. So do you see that when you check how they calculated the savings, how did they calculate the savings? How did they calculate the savings? So now let's just wear our critical thinking caps. So they said a number of units is equals to 709,775 divided by 145, which is 489,500. Then maybe let's just quickly see for year what? For year 2, to just see how they did it in year 2. So quickly, then looking at year 2, I see that they will have then done 816, 241. Now the rate is 167. So let me see, 816, 241, 1.67. So let me just use the one with the calculator.
Why did you use the calculator, Mr. Lecturer? You'll have to clear some of our conflicted mindset here. Back to the question that we had asked, is the calculator even necessary, or just take what I'm having and assume it's fine?
Yeah, no. So now this is, you're gonna see where I'm taking this.
Okay.
So do you remember when we were talking about how you will calculate the savings? What did we say when we talk about how you'll calculate the savings? What do you need to compare with what?
You compare the city power and the new one, the PPA agreement.
So what are you comparing? But let's be specific here. What are we comparing?
We are comparing the, what do you call those? The kWh,
kilowatts.
the kilowatts. Say you made an example with 10,000. You're saying we're comparing the kilowatts multiplied by the city power price.
No,
and
but
then
specific,
the
when kilowatt what? Kilowatt hours what?
The tariff.
tariff.
No, so when you say the kilowatt hours, what is the kilowatt? What is it? What does it represent?
The consumption.
The usage.
It is the usage, right? But
yeah.
Then what is Green Sky charging us on?
Oh, okay. So Green Sky, according to this, is charging us on the total production. Didn't they say,
Did you understand that this could not be right? Because it is likely that Green Sky will give us a panel and say that this panel has an output of this, right?
Yeah.
But now what they could be charging, because they will need to recover their capital, they could have worked on a model of you take it or leave it kind of arrangement. So it's like a lease where now the rate is fixed based on the output, regardless of whether the output you will use or not. Do you understand? Because Green Sky will likely not go into an agreement where they're saying that, what if then the school closes for an extended period and there's no usage? They might say that, no, we are charging you for what the system can produce. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
And it might be that what the system can produce is not necessarily what you will expect to consume.
But when then wasn't the agreement for them to charge us for the usage?
Yes, but now then one will want to understand that, will this be the usage for the next 20 years? Do you understand? Will our usage remain constant for the next 20 years?
Mm.
Like if you tell me that about any business, I will not believe. It doesn't matter which business it is. If you tell me that, no, Renani, when we did this agreement, we assumed that this business is going to use the same power for the next 20 years. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Renani.
Yes.
Why are we saying that they'll be using the same kilowatts?
Because that's what the calculation is showing us. Do you see that every time now when we are calculating the savings, when we work back the savings, they are based on the same amount.
Okay, but I got a different amount when I divided this 816,241 with 1.67.
Oh, no, so do it from the scratch. So do 145, right? So say 145, which is the initial rate, right?
Okay.
Row it by 15%, which is the rate for the first year.
Okay.
And multiply by 489,500. What do you get?
489,500. I get 816,241.
Yes. So
what
now,
does that mean?
So now their usage has not changed. The only thing that changed is the rate.
And this is what that was our first point to say is incorrect, right?
No,
because
our point was you didn't take into account the degradation.
Yeah.
But now we are saying that you are now telling me that my saving will then be based on a constant basis. But will I not be doing what? So essentially what I want to just confirm, is it one, even on day one, am I using this entire output?
Oh, okay.
Now, if I'm not, let's say if I'm just operating at 300, it means you've overestimated my savings. Yes, you're giving me something with an output of 400, but you could have overestimated my savings because I was not even using 300. So you could be saying I'm saving 700 when I was not going to use 700 to begin with.
Oh, okay.
So we just want to raise that concern.
Wow, that is HC.
Well, sorry, can I ask something?
Okay, because they said the cost of purchasing electricity could be based on the expected consumption figures. So now, are we saying we're gonna consume 100% of the output in each and every year? You could put it like that.
Okay, it makes sense.
Yes. Okay, yes, go for it with the question.
Is the figures on the schedule, are they not hypothetical?
But remember that we need to make a decision on them. So when you say hypothetical, what do you mean?
Because
yes,
obviously we don't know the usage.
but we should have it in our budget when we budget electricity for next year, right? When we run our budgets, we should have an electricity bill, and we should probably have a rough idea of what uses the electricity. Will you not say?
Mm-hmm.
So if you come and say that how much electricity do you need? I'll say that we've got so many employees, we run so many lectures. During lectures, we find that in a month we've got more lectures, the electricity bill is a bit higher. And then we find that in winter it's even more higher because we now have to heat the offices. But I will have an idea. Yes, I will not lend 100%, but as management, we'll expect them to have an idea of consumption. Yes.
Yes.
So now we are saying that they might have an idea, but then does this reflect that idea? Because we understand that this is what they are proposing that they will build, but is it what I will then be consuming? That's what I want to understand.
Okay.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. Because as I'm saying, that the arrangement is that they are normally treated as lease agreements. And therefore, I could be charged for having a solar panel there. But if I'm not using all of it, I could then end up having a higher cost because I'm charged on what is being provided rather than what I'm using.
Okay.
Yes. So the point here is maybe to question whether the consumption for the mid-range school is either consistent over the next 20 years, and I would say this sounds unlikely, because remember that the output is what it can do, so that we are saying that after the degradation, it will be what it can do. And then also maybe to raise it differently, to say whether the mid-range school, will it be consuming 100% of the output from the solar system? So I will have put it as a question to Green Sky or to management, just to make sure we are not, because if this is not the case, if our consumption is lower, then these savings are overstated. Okay?
Rendani?
Yeah.
Hi.
Yes,
can I just go back to the issue of the question the information given, saying that we should assume that the calculation given are correct, right? So I'm trying to sort of like come up with an approach for myself, because I'm thinking sometimes it's not me not understanding or not having knowledge of what I'm given, like the calculation, but how I'm interpreting the information. So what I'm picking up from the calculation that you are doing is that even though the information is saying you shouldn't show calculation, it is important that you understand how the answer is derived. So in this case, how is the saving derived? So meaning at least try to pick up one or two line and try to understand how did they calculate the saving for you to actually raise a valid point.
100% agree. And I think to the earlier question, to say, don't shy away from doing some ratio analysis to get a good sense of the numbers.
Yeah, so the number can be accurate, but the input, is it correct based on the information that you were given?
Yes, and that's number 3. And that's why I said the amounts have been correctly included from a technical perspective. However, given the context, are they believable? Do you see that?
Oh, yes.
That's what I was raising, yes. Okay, then what is missing? What do you normally see in an NPV analysis? So these savings, do you think all of them will belong to you? You're a company. Do you think all of these savings will belong to you? When you generate income, what happens? When you've generated income, what happens?
The tax implications.
Tax implications have been omitted. So you've got an omission. But do you see, it's like, I mean, these are then the tools that you can go in with, and you'll never have to struggle again with a math review task. Then now we say, all right, let's say tax was correctly included. Then they come and discounted using the cost of debt after tax to get the NPV. Do you have any concerns?
Hi, Renani.
Hi.
Yes, I have concerns because normally when you're doing the NPV, they should look at the capital structure. So the best is using WACC.
Yeah, so NPV should be evaluated based on what? Based on the weighted average cost of capital, since this is an operational decision and not a financing decision. But do you see that? I understood why Dennis was confused. So it was not something that I will have completely disregarded or say that, no, Dennis, this was just a stupid mistake. Because she's saying she didn't have money. And if she didn't have money, so to her, she's saying that then this is just a way of funding the proposal. And therefore, she should use the cost of debt rather than the cost of capital. But now, look at us. Are you not happy now? The omission. Hi. Sorry, you're saying?
I had a question with regards to the cost of debt.
Yeah, let's
so
go.
Because we got the calculation from Green Sky, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my question is, how did they know what the cost of debt is? Because I'm thinking that should be based on our work.
Yeah.
So is it reasonable that they determine their own cost of debt? From Green Sky's perspective.
Probably to debate that will be a higher level application, because one will argue that this represents a different risk profile, and to then assess it using the company's work or the school's work might not be so appropriate. Because it's not something that they do on a regular basis. It's got its own risk profile. It's a mini project. So they will have a better understanding of the work. Or you can argue that since it's going to be attached to the school, it will be an operating asset that needs to generate a return on the entity's invested capital. And therefore, one will then argue that the company's work be used. So it's just now a matter of balance that I will have then just kept it as we need to use work rather than take a position. If I'm to take a position, I'll be probably chasing after an HC point to say that the work, because this project has got a different risk profile, we are a school and this has nothing to do with operating a school, our work will not be appropriate. The work that will be appropriate should then match the risk of similar solar projects, and accordingly, this is probably then the best way to handle it. Do you understand?
Yes, thank you.
All right. And yes, someone is asking about maintenance. I agree with the response. They said that Green Sky will handle that. So Green Sky will handle that. And if Green Sky is going to handle that, then it's likely that they factored it into what? Into their rate. Because their rate has to recover the capital, the running cost over the next, and their expected return. So that is what one will then expect of this rate. Okay.
Hi, Rendani.
Hi.
Under critical thinking there, on year 2, you say 816,241 divided by 1.67. When I calculate that, it gives me 488,767.
But remember that as I was saying that it's not rounded. The correct number is this. I think it's 1667.
Oh.
Yes.
Because I'm just trying to understand the purpose of us calculating this was to make sure that they are indeed using the constant consumption, right?
Yes, yes. Because above here, they told us that they are going to use the expected consumption figures. But now we want to question that, is this now going to be aligned? And that's why I'm saying whether the middle school will be consuming 100% of the output.
Okay, but that's the only reason why you're asking that.
Yes, yes.
To make sure that the savings are not overstated.
Yes, 100%.
Okay, thanks.
We are together. Yeah. Okay. So from a review perspective, this is it, right? Then the key, yeah.
I wanted to ask, like for instance, okay, I understand the maintenance is covered, but asking, okay, I have two questions. The first one is regards to like insurance costs in terms of breakup, because we know with solar systems they always break up. Who covers those costs? The second one,
you could then raise it as part of, we need to investigate this thing. So under the commercial terms, you will need to ask who will be carrying the insurance for this. Good question. So that is a commercial term. Who will be responsible for the insurance of these panels? That's a good question, because they are attached on our roof. It might be that we might be expected to do what? We might be expected to cover it. Or the terms could be that they will handle it. But it's a commercial term.
Okay.
Right? Because it could affect the attractiveness of this. When you include the insurance and so on, you could find, oh, no, but this thing is not so attractive because I end up carrying so much risk.
Okay, no, I understand. I think the other one relates to the PPA rate. Because since it's the first time we are maybe investing in such project, will I be wrong if maybe I try to interrogate and say, where did you get this rate? Is it market related?
So to compare whether it's market related, that's a good point. Just compare if there is any other proposal. Remember that in the reflection videos, I even give you links and said, these are the other guys that do similar things. So I will then not go to the board and say, board, let's go with Green Sky when you have not gotten other proposal. So compare with if there are other proposals to determine whether the financial terms or the PPA rate, which is the key thing, the PPA rate is fair, reasonable, or market related. So that is what I'll want you to check as part of the commercial terms. But you're answering the question, right? These issues are the ones that they wanted in Part B. You are in the money, right there. Anything else that you want to just confirm before? I think I see Asen is waiting. This is him here. So he's waiting.
Hi,
all right.
Danny.
Yes.
So I'm not sure if it would be part of the commercial or operational issues, but is it not right to also maybe suggest going with a competitor? I think it was Green Sun, where they had like a 5-year terms. Since this is a new project, wouldn't it be wise to go for a shorter term and see if it's working for our business? And if it's not, then we can pull out.
But then as Green Sky, I'll say that why don't you just suggest 5 years with me? So consider different terms in order to reduce the risk and or assess the viability of this. So the point that you are raising is that 20 years is too short to give you is too long to give you comfort. So can we not consider a different term, a period? Let me clarify period. Say 5 years. Good point. But do you see? This is it. This is it. Does it not just feel good now? Because it's not like Menek, it's feeling good, right?
Yeah, it feels good.
Good.
Rendani, can I ask something? During the pre-release, I was uncomfortable with the fact that this whole project is being done in the mid-range school, which is currently not doing well financially. So I was just wondering if it was wise for us to do the project with the mid-range school, seeing its financial position.
Oh, interesting point. Very integrated point. Okay. And it could be an operational issue. All right. I think there was another question coming through, but I think we are done. What about penalties if we don't use? Therefore, yes. All right. Sorry, there was a question. Was there a question? And last one before Asen jumps in. I promise. Last one.
Hi, Randani. I just have a question in terms of depth. You know, sometimes you review the task, and when you look at your response, you just feel like you haven't put down a lot of points. And I see our discussion, but how do you know that you've done coverage and depth?
So here from a coverage perspective, I think it's always an issue because I sat and I was like, sure, do you guys only have 5 things? Like, am I missing something? So that will always be a question to ask. And for me, it is where you'll now come and say, did I check for errors? Did I check for what is missing? And did I really question all the inputs? And if I did, then I should be fine with coverage. And when it comes to depth, I always challenge myself to say, after I've written it, let me go back. Is this point when I read it cold? And I think this is a technique that you need to get, how to read your work cold. To say, when I read it cold, am I reading it so cold that I can still see the value? And in some cases, I do go back and change the wording to say, no, I don't think examiners will be able to pick up what I was trying to say. Do you understand? Like, yeah, I said the tax implications have been, sorry, now I realize I actually made a mistake, have been omitted. So I could say that, but will this be clear? Then I would then say that since we are saving the electricity used, this will have been allowed as a what? As a deduction. And therefore, if the expense is lower, it means that the deduction, the tax implications will be different. And those effects should have been included. So this will be me, just to make sure that someone doesn't come and say, which tax implications is Rendani talking about? Now this is where I will say, this now has what? Has depth. Do you understand? So depth for me is always about challenging the comprehension or the comprehensiveness of your response. Do you understand?
All right.
And like again, who will be responsible for the insurance? So that is a good point. But again, the person who came with this point really gave me the breadth, the depth to say these solar systems tend to be what? Tend to be unstable, and they might what? They might break down. So who will bear this cost? Who will be bearing such cost? Now this is now having more depth. And again, it's about just challenging yourself to say, there's a stranger that could potentially be Renani that will be marking my script. Have I given the marker enough to give me credit? Guys, I've spoken too long. Sorry to take your time, but I think this is it. Let's cap it here. Thank you, Ned. But yeah, keep them coming. I'll be in the chats as Asen takes over. I will just comment if there's something that is worth commenting. Otherwise, I'll just love the points. But thank you very much for your engagement and hoping that whatever task you have on math, you'll love it. Thank you. Asen, sorry for taking more than what is needed.
No stress, Rendani.
Sure. Let me exit.
Good. Good evening, everyone. Sounds like you guys have had a hectic session.